Hello! In this video, we'll be taking you into the wonderful world of audio production for film. I'm Matt.
I'm Will, and this is Around the Sound.
So, over the past few months, Will, myself, and a few of our audio mates have been working on 3 different short films. To sum them up very quickly, we've got Gamma, a story about a grandmother reconnecting with her granddaughter through the world of competitive online gaming.
We have House of Fontaine, where 3 estranged siblings come together for their grandfather's inheritance.
And then we also have Severance, a story about a group of campers that go missing one by one.
So we've been involved all the way from capturing the on-set audio to sound designing, scoring, recording foley, mixing and mastering to create our final product. Where better to start our journey into this subject than on set?
So as a sound crew on a film set, our main priority is to capture the dialogue from the actors.
There's a few different microphones that we'll use for this. One of them is a wireless lapel mic that we can hook into our recording device and operate from a distance so the actors can keep moving around. We also use a wired version that we sometimes stick around the room to use as a plant mic.
Secret. Don't tell anyone.
There are hidden mics.
Yeah. And then we can also use one of these. This is called a shotgun microphone, which is really precise, directional, and it allows us to go over the top of the actors or maybe underneath from the floor to get clear dialogue without having to get so close to their faces. And then of course, this little thing, it's small and easy to lose, so it's good to put it inside a blimp, which is one of these. So this is the actual microphone, and then it goes inside here. A little shock mount in there if you want to see that. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So it just protects it and stops the wind from catching it too much. But if it's really windy, you gotta use one of these, which is called a dead cat, probably for obvious reasons. It just helps disperse the energy of the wind when it hits it and stops that awful sound that you can get when there's a microphone in the wind.
We tend to use both microphones or all these types of microphones at the same time so that we have backups in different channels and different areas of the set to give us options in the post-production process when we're going through dialogue, cleaning up and making sure we have the best take in.
So, with all of these different microphones, how do we actually go about recording the different channels all at once? Well, going into a camera is boring, so we like to use separate audio recorders so that we have control over all the levels and the monitoring capabilities. There's this is a Zoom H6, super handy little recorder, and then sometimes we also use a Zoom F8, which just has more channels, as you can see.
Secondary to dialogue, we might use the H6 to capture Atmos with its stereo channels.
But what is Atmos, Will?
So that is the sounds that you'll hear that tell you what environment you're in, such as
Forest, beach,
lakes,
yeah,
next to a fire, space. It's quite quiet.
yeah. Super helpful in post-production though, because it's sort of like, it goes unnoticed, but it is the invisible glue between the scenes, and it just helps immerse the viewer in the environment in the scene.
Yes, you'll find watching a film or a short without any room tone or Atmos in it quite uncomfortable and confusing.
Yeah, you'd hear the cuts between the footage. It wouldn't be nice, trust me. I composed for both Gamma and House Fontaine, two very different projects, and I learnt a lot about both sides of the spectrum, where you've got Gamma, which is the super on-grid, high-impact chip tune, which is a fun genre, you should look it up, sort of sounds. But then there's House of Fontaine, which needed a much more natural human performance through strings and piano. But how do we actually make this music? DAW, what does it stand for?
Digital Audio Workstation.
Hey. Just a fancy way of saying
You can make music in this.
Yeah.
That is the software that we use to produce the music.
So what we normally do is we don't go out and record an orchestra, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of money.
Have the time or budget for that.
No.
Unfortunately.
So what we do use is a thing called MIDI, which is musical instrument digital interface.
You can imagine it like a remote control that controls the sounds.
Yeah, it doesn't make the sounds. It controls the sounds.
Tells it what to do.
Yeah, it tells the virtual instruments what to do. Like fake instruments that you can program essentially. And they come in all different shapes and sizes, of course, from, little chippy synthesizers in Gamma to like string orchestras in
Sample
House
instruments
of Fontaine.
that use real recordings of real instruments
Triggered by the MIDI
programmed with MIDI
to make it sound like that they're being played. But when you're playing the ones that need to sound more natural, it's better to play them in and don't like lock them straight to the grid. You've got to use expression controls and just be continuously changing. Because if a real person was playing a violin, it's a continuously changing sound. Let's talk about sound design. That's Will's department more than mine.
So yeah, I sound designed for Gamma and for House of Fontaine, which again, very, very different approaches to these. House of Fontaine was particularly minimal as it's a very natural sounding film. We use sound particularly to enhance the story and have a recurring motif, which if you watch through, there's a whistle in it that we have coming from a window. And yeah, I spent some time creating a virtual instrument so that I could adjust this sound and make it sound suitable for the scene and have some control over the mood it creates in that scene.
How do you make these sounds?
For example, for the whistle, I used some Atmos that we recorded on set with our H6. I also used some other wind sounds that are sourced online. And then I also used a very, very quiet synthesizer element to give it a tone or like a root pitch. But yeah, these all layered together and then with some effects and controls on them can give you a dynamic instrument to fill in the space where you need that sound. For Gamma, it was very different. Because it's such a stylized and loud, fast, in-your-face film, we're creating lots and lots of little sound effects, and it's sort of in my favorite style, very computery sounding, digital, glitchy sound effects. There was a lot of resampling in this process, using sounds that we'd created earlier on. Take these and manipulate them a bit to fill in the space of another sound, which keeps it thematic and helps it all sound like one piece, like all the sounds came from the same universe.
Cool. Foley. So what is Foley? Foley art is the process of recording sounds in time with visuals to enhance what's happening on the screen, mainly to just emphasize certain story beats and help get the viewer focused on what's happening.
Yeah, we spent a few sessions in the Foley room making a load of sounds. Matt's really, really good at just making sounds happen out of anything.
It takes a lot of takes to get it just right, but there's nothing like getting it perfect.
We mainly do this to get copies of sounds that we wouldn't be able to record on set. Some of these sounds are too delicate to hear properly amongst other recordings and stuff, and some of them just need to be separated from dialogue and stuff like that.
I think a classic example would be the sound of the tents being unzipped in Severance. With just the takes, you can just hear them, but it's really nice to just have that little bit of emphasis to help put the listener there in the scene.
Yeah, there's nothing better than hearing a nice bright tent zip.
We have all of this stuff, but we have to bring it together, don't we? And it all has to work together nicely. This process of making everything work together is called mixing. We can mix.
Yeah, we know how to mix.
But we know a guy who's pretty quick and has some pretty good ears on him.
I don't know.
He might be here.
Do you reckon he's
here?
Do you reckon he's still here? after all those mixing sessions. You there?
Oh. Could you help us?
That is really bad job. Sorry.
I'm going to move this mic over for you.
How are the films different when we bring all the different stuff together?
In each film, the core of it, and the main for Gamma is like sound design and compose, and in House of Antenna as well, the compose building up a lot, but it's really different when it turns into Severance. You need many things because Gamma and House of Antenna is like they have a core and then they use a composer to cover. Sound design to cover. Severance is like the core is a two thing combined together, which is the story and the sound they combine together. We need to bring it back to the foley stuff and sound design.
You gotta feel like you're there.
Yeah.
That's sort of thing with Severance. So, with the final masters of these films handed off to the editors, to some with their visuals, that marks the end of our production process for these films.
Yeah, it's been a long journey over the last 6 months from
Too right, it has been.
from shooting to mastering, but it's been a great one and we've learned heaps. I've been Will,
I've been Matt.
and this has been Around the Sound.